Hi everyone, how you doing? I hope you had a really good day today. Nana's going to read you a story about clever old Budgie. So that'll be good, won't it? Your granddad had a budgie when he was a little boy. He was called Joey and he used to play blow football with him. I'm sure if you ask Grandad, he'll tell you all about it because I think Joey used to win. Anyway, if you're sitting comfortably, then I'll begin. Our story for tonight, Clever Old Budgie. Every evening after tea, Robert and Bessie opened their budgerigars cage and let out the excited little bird. "Come on, Budgie, dear Budgie, spread your wings and fly," said Robert. "Come on my head if you like." "Talk, Budgie, talk," said Bessie. "Say 10345. "Don't be silly, Bessie," said Robert. "What's the sense in teaching our Budgie a silly thing like our telephone number?" "Well, he might escape one day, and then, if he says our telephone number, somebody might guess what he was saying and telephone us," said Bessie. "It's not a silly idea. You're silly to teach him Rock-a-Bye Baby. Why don't you teach him a sensible song?" "Well, he says rock-a-bye so well," said Robert. "Soon he'll get the whole line, and the tune too. Budgie, listen. Rock-a-bye baby on the treetop." "Rock-a-bye, rock-a-bye," said the little green and blue Budgie, his head on one side. 10345, rock-a-bye, 10345. "There, you've muddled in with your silly telephone number," said Robert crossly. "Please don't teach it to him any more." "He knows it now," said Bessie. Ask for your dinner, Budgie. Say, 'Where's my dinner?'" "Where's my dinner?" said Budgie in his funny little voice. "Dinner, 10345. He flew all around the room, sitting on the lampshade, then on the curtain pelmet, then on the top of the clock, and Bessie held out a finger and he flew at it at once, making a funny little noise in his throat. The budgerigar was very sweet and very tame, and Robert and Bessie loved him, and Robert felt proud whenever the tiny little bird flew on his shoulder and pretended to whisper in his ear. Budgie had a lovely cage with a little mirror and a bell he could ring. Sometimes he rang it so often that Bessie said it sounded as if Noddy was somewhere in the room, ringing the bell on his blue hat. One day Joe came to tea and he couldn't take his eyes off the budgie. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle went the little bell, and as soon as Joe looked up into the cage, the budgie put his pretty head on one side and spoke clearly. "Rock-a-bye, dinner, dinner, dinner." "Isn't he marvellous?" said Joe. "I do wish I had a bird like that. Will he come out of his cage? Is he tame?" "Oh, yes, he always comes out of his tea," said Bessie. "He may fly on your head, Joe, so don't you be surprised." After tea was cleared away, Mother left the children to amuse themselves. Joe wanted the budgie out of his cage, of course, and Bessie went to get him. "Shut the window, Joe," she said. "It's open, and we mustn't let the budgie fly away. He wouldn't know how to feed himself, and he might die." Joe slid the top part of the window upwards, but he didn't quite shut it. He didn't notice that there was a small space left until at the very top. He was so anxious to see the budgie come out of the cage. Out he came and flew straight to Robert, sitting on his hand and pecking his nails. "Dinner, dinner," he said, and Robert laughed. "No, my nails aren't your dinner. Don't, Budgie." Joe spoke to the tiny bird. "Say my name," he said. "Joe, Joe, Joe. Say Joe." 10345, said the budgie, with his head on one side. "What's that?" asked Joe, surprised. "It's a silly thing Bessie has taught him to say," said Robert. "Our telephone number." "Budgie, say rock-a-bye baby on a tree top. Go on now. You said the whole of it yesterday." "No, say Joe, Joe," said Joe in such a loud voice that the budgie was frightened. He flew off Robert's hand at once with a little squeak and went to the pelmet of the curtain above the window. He stood there peering out cautiously. Then he felt a little draught that came through the open space at the top of the window and flew down to see where it had come from. And in one moment he was gone. He hopped on the top of the window, slid through the little space there, spread his wings, and vanished. Bessie screamed, "Oh, Budgie! Budgie's gone! Joe, you didn't shut the window properly. You left a crack at the top. Budgie's gone!" They all raced out into the garden. "Budgie! Budgie! Budgie! Where are you, Budgie? Come back!" they called, but no Budgie was to be seen anywhere. Where could he be? The children called him and hunted to the garden from top to bottom till dark. "It's no good," said Robert at last. "He's gone. Goodness knows where. He won't last long because he can't feed himself properly, and a cat might get him." "Blow you, Joe," leaving the window a crack open. Bessie was in tears. Mother comforted her and went to ring the police station to report the loss. It was dreadful to think of the little Budgie out in the darkness all by himself. He'd never been out of doors before. What a big, frightening world it would seem to him. "Will the other birds help him?" asked Bessie tearfully. "Will they show him where to sleep at night? Will they tell him to beware of cats?" "Perhaps," said Mother, "but stop worrying about him. Maybe someone will telephone the police station to say they've found him." But nobody telephoned the police station that night or the next morning. And then suddenly their own telephone rang and a voice spoke clearly. "Hello? Is that 10345? "Yes, it is," said Robert, who was answering the telephone because his mother was busy. "Can I take a message for my mother for you?" "Well, I rang up to know if you'd lost a beautiful little budgerigar," said the voice. "Oh, yes, we have," said Robert. "Is he all right?" "Well, he's a bit scared," said the voice. "He's in my garden and he won't let me catch him." "However did you know he might be ours?" said Robert. "My little boy saw him first," said the voice, "and when he went out to see what kind of bird was sitting on our plum tree, the bird spoke to him. He was so surprised. It had said 10345 over and over and over again. So my little boy came running in and said that the bird must be telling him his telephone number, and please would I telephone to see if a budgie lived at that address." "Oh, clever Budgie," said Robert. "It is our telephone number." "What's your address? We'll come and fetch him." "We live at Tall Chimneys, Scott's Lane," said the voice. "I'll tell my little boy to keep an eye on the budgie until you come. Fancy him knowing his own telephone number." Robert ran to tell Bessie and his mother. "There, I was very sensible to make him learn a telephone number, wasn't I?" said Bessie, overjoyed. "Oh, quick, let's go and get him. Mummy, will you take us in the car?" "Of course," said Mother. Go and open the garage, Robert, and I'll get my coat. We must go at once, or the budgie might fly away from the garden he's in." They were soon at Tall Chimneys, where a small boy was waiting for them at the gate. "Hello, you've been quick," he said, opening the gate to let the car through and into the little drive. "Budgie's still here. I almost thought he was going to fly onto my hand once, but he didn't. Come on, he's over here." He led the two children down a little path to a summer house, and there, sitting on a creeper that climbed all over it, was Budgie. "Oh, Budgie," cried Bessie, excited. "Dear Budgie, we've come to take you home." Budgie gave a little squawk of joy and flew straight to Bessie's outstretched hand. She covered him gently with her other hand so that he could not fly away again. Robert had brought a little travelling cage with him, and Budgie was soon safely inside the door, with the door shut on him. 10345, he called. 10345. "There, that's what he kept saying," said the little boy. "At first I didn't know what he was talking about. Then suddenly I wondered if he could possibly be saying his phone number." "He was. I taught him," said Bessie, red with pride. "But Robert thought it was a silly idea, didn't you, Rob?" "Yes, but I don't now. I think it was a marvellous idea of yours," said Robert. He turned to the small boy. "Thank you so much for phoning us. We're so glad to get our Budgie back safely." And off they went with him, laughing to hear him squawking crossly in his tiny travelling cage. How glad he was to see his own big cage again. He hopped inside, rang his bell loudly, and looked at himself in the mirror. "Rock-a-bye, dinner, dinner," he said. "It's a good thing you didn't say that to the little boy," said Bessie. "Clever old Budgie." "Clever old Bessie," said Mother and Robert together. "And I agree with them. Clever old Bessie." How fantastic, teaching the Budgie the phone number. So next time you speak to Grandad, you'll have to ask him about his budgerigar and who won at blow football. I bet he'll tell you it was him. Do you think? Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again tomorrow. So sleep well and be really, really good. So I love you, Atty, and I love you, Torby, love you, Ruby, and I love you, Max. You be good, and I'll see you tomorrow.